Hanging out with Cole Cubelic today to give us the rundown. We're going to talk about Auburn, their loss to LSU, blowing a 20-point lead, some concern around the conservative play calling. A lot of people want to point the finger and say Gus Malzahn slowed up in the second half. They blow the 20-point lead, 3 of 14 on third down attempts, only 64 yards of total offense in the second half, leaning a little bit too much on the defense. Your take on that, what happened in this football game?
Well, I think, Lauren, when you're a team that is built to score points and your offense is built to score points and you're playing on the road against a quality opponent, a place that you haven't won in 17 years, you can't completely take your foot off the gas. You have to stay aggressive, you have to stay creative, you have to stay innovative, and there was a lack of that in the second half. And you hear the things that Gus Malzahn has said, basically that he understands that they got a little conservative in the second half. I think going into the half, if you hear his comments, he felt like they were in a pretty good spot going into halftime. So that tells me that his concern wasn't to go out and try to put more points on the board. It was sort of status quo, manage things where they were and they would be okay. It turned out not to be okay. So for me, I don't think it means to stay aggressive that you have to continue to take shots down the field. You have to continue to throw deep balls. I think staying aggressive can be being creative with formations, being creative with personnels, even being creative with motions and movement before the snap when you're still going to run the same play that you were going to anyway, but you're just trying to do different things to keep the defense off their heels. So being aggressive can happen in a lot of different ways. It doesn't necessarily have to be just chucking deep balls 17 times in the second half when you have a 20-point lead. So I think when you look at momentum, the fact that LSU was able to get a score just before the half, you sort of had to sit back and think, wow, at home, a place where a lot of magical things have happened. We haven't had success here in a long time. What are we going to do to ensure we're giving ourselves the best chance to win this football game? And being conservative and sitting on the ball was not that.
So now we take this picture and look ahead on this. Their schedule, of course, they're at Arkansas, they get a bye week, Texas A&M, they get Georgia at home, they get Alabama at home. How do you fix this? Of course, Gus Malzahn saying after the football game, it's not the end of the world, trying to encourage his players that, they can control their own destiny. Obviously, some other things are going to have to happen. LSU's going to have to lose another football game. Alabama's in the mix there as well.
Which is not controlling your own destiny.
Exactly. So with that being said, what needs to happen for Auburn to bounce back from this and really contend and have a shot, aside from other teams losing at playing for an SEC championship?
I think the first thing is balance. You have a defense that you can lean on, but nobody's defense, nobody's run game, there's no one singular part of a football team that you can completely lean on. Football doesn't work that way. That's why there are three facets to the game: offense, defense, and special teams. Now, your defense can have a great game and be the main reason that you win a football game, but that doesn't mean you can go into a game thinking, okay, the defense is going to pitch a shutout, so we don't really have to pull our weight over in this department and this department.
Especially when you're Auburn, as you pointed to before, being a high-powered offense where they lean a lot on their offense and scoring points.
Sure. But this defense is good enough to keep them in every game that they play. Every game they play moving forward, I think this defense is good enough to keep them in that game. For me, it comes down to creativity. Can you be imaginative? And can you do different things offensively? And that really, to me, spells out with balance. And I think a lot of times people hear being creative and having an imagination and forming balance as it's not just run pass. It's personnel groupings, it's formations, it's motions, it's shifts. It's self-scouting and knowing that when we're in the red zone on the right hash, hey, 80% of the time we've run this play out of this formation, let's not do that. Or let's run that formation knowing we're not going to run that play and hopefully try to throw off a defense that thinks they've got a beat on us. And they have our number on that play out of that formation on that spot in the field. So there are a lot of things that go into how you change, how you adapt, how you move forward and be more creative and more imaginative. And if they don't do that, then we're just going to get the same thing over and over.
He's Cole Cubelic, fired up. Thanks so much for your time. We appreciate it.